Shalom and good morning, early morning from Los Angeles here in California on my way to Seattle, Washington to board our Alaska cruise. I'm Amir Tsarfati. Today is June 30th, 2026, excuse me. And this is sort of like breaking news, putting together the most important things that happened the last few days. I'm not updating you guys on Telegram as often as I used to, but there's a lot of stuff that is going on, and I think that it's best if I talk to you directly. But before that, let me pray. Lord, I thank you for the technology that allows me to share. But Father, we ask that whatever is going to be shared today will not be sensational in the likes of so many other videos on YouTube, that it will give information, comfort, edification, and encouragement to the saints. I also, Father, pray that you will help us to understand the times and the seasons in which we live, get the urgency of the times and the seasons, and we ask that you will help us to get the right information in a sea, in an ocean of deception that is all around. Father, I thank you that in this time and seasons, so much deception and uh, so much lies, so many lies and misinformation and disinformation. We know that we can trust in you and in your word more than anything else. The flower fades, the grass withers, but the word of God stands forever. And as much as we can speak about world events, if we don't tie to your word, we will be proven fools. So, Father, we ask again that you will open the eyes of our hearts to understand the wonders of your word. In Yeshua's name, amen. Amen. So, guys, I'm here in Los Angeles for a day on my way to um, Washington State. It's been a long flight. This is the first of many long flights that I'm going to have in the next 40 something days. I'm going to speak on board the cruise. I'm going to speak in Spokane, Washington. I'm going to speak, and then I'm flying to Dubai to speak there. Then I'm flying to New Zealand to speak across New Zealand, then to Australia, across Australia, and then I get back home. Lots of stuff is going on, but very, very amazing things are happening before our very eyes. And I thought it's best to update you on all of them. Not everything we see we like, but everything we see has to happen, and everything that happens happens for a reason, and God is allowing it to happen. So whether we like it or not, and by the way, that's one of the reasons I stepped out of Telegram, because I found myself emotionally invested into something that uh, literally made me sick. So let's put together everything. So, as we all know, um, the memorandum of understanding was shamefully signed by the non-leader Vice President Vance in, well, actually, it was signed by the president in Versailles, but it was already negotiated, and eventually the first meeting was in the Lake Lucerne in Switzerland. Now, if you remember that shameful, disgraceful, stupid memorandum of understanding that so many people think it's great achievement, it's actually worse than the Munich conference. The Munich conference with Chamberlain and Wilson with Hitler was before a war started. So they really thought they are going to stop a war. So, as much as they were stupid to believe Hitler, at least he didn't start a war yet, a world war. So they may had a reason to think it might work. But after 47 years of the Ayatollahs and after a war that America fought, at the end of the war, to sign something like that, that leaves the IRGC in power, reviving it, giving it oxygen and billions and all that, it's almost like Hitler is dead, but you made it to Berlin and you actually stopped and gave the Marshall Plan to the Nazi Party in Germany and not obliterated them completely and started all from scratch. That's how bad it is. So, but again, it probably had to have happened. You know, I'm not going to stand here or sit here and cry over something like that. It happened. I believe with all of my heart that as much as God, as much as leaders could be used by God for good things, they also can be used by God to advance other things. And I do believe with all of my heart that money and foreign interests overcame common sense, reason, and values here. Also, no one, after almost 40 days of war, when Iran was on the floor, to stop and to give them more than they had before makes no sense unless there is some monkey business going on here. Now, when you have businessmen that have businesses in Qatar, when you have Witkoff and Kushner, when you have the Trump family also having business with the Qataris, when the Qataris are giving you Air Force One worth of 400 or 500 million dollars that the president's going to use today for the first time. Unheard of. I can't believe the leader of the free world is flying on an airplane gifted to him by the country that has caused more damage to the American society and educational system than any other country in the history of America. But forget about that. This is water under the bridge already. What was done there that really bothered Israel is not the Strait of Hormuz. Honestly, who cares for us? What we were shocked to find out is that Iran actually presented itself as the guardian of Lebanon, and part of the nuclear deal is actually that America is ordering Israel to pull out of Lebanon so we can actually give a lifeline to Hezbollah right now. That's when we drew the line and said no. Simultaneously, while all that stupidity was going on, sorry for this language, but I've been searching for the right vocabulary for weeks now. I couldn't find it. There's really no better vocabulary than that. No person in his right mind does something like that. But apart from that stupidity in Switzerland and in Versailles, whatever, Israel realized, and the Lebanese government also realized, that Iran was given the power over Lebanon's future and over our border. And so the Lebanese government realized that they fear Iran much more than they fear Israel. And they also realized Israel has zero territorial demands from Lebanon. In other words, we will gladly get back to the international border if there is no danger in southern Lebanon of rockets and drones and ground infiltration, ground invasion. That's a given. Israel has no demands from Jordan or Syria or Lebanon or Egypt or any of our neighbors. Every country that signed peace with us has never been invaded by Israel, never. And so the question that is now being asked is, the Lebanese were asking, so how come we are left out of this whole thing? How come we're giving Iran and Qatar and Pakistan the keys to our future? So Marco Rubio, which is the only person I trust in the current administration right now, in light of the stupidity and recklessness that we saw, Marco Rubio is the only sane, the only person that understands what's going on, understands the dangers and all of that. He was working tirelessly on a deal between Israel and Lebanon. And the deal is, and listen to this, and this is very important that you understand, the deal is that the Lebanese government, and not Iran, is responsible for southern Lebanon, as well as Beirut, as well as northern Lebanon, as well as east. Lebanese future and Lebanese sovereignty is in the hands of the elected Lebanese government. And Hezbollah is the problem. Not only I say that, the Lebanese are saying that. Their government is saying that. The Sunnis, the Druze, the Christians, all of them are pointing, and even many of the Shia Muslims understand Hezbollah is now a problem. 200,000 people from southern Lebanon were evacuated from southern Lebanon up north because of Hezbollah. Hezbollah used their villages to build infrastructures under the ground. One of them is Majda Zone. Majda Zone, let me show you. We talked about it before, but you probably didn't pay attention to what Israel demolished yesterday. Enormous, monstrous underground facility, 45 meters under the ground. It's like more than 120 feet under the ground, with tons of rooms and shafts with rocket launchers and drones and drone launchers and command centers and name it, they had it there. Iran invested billions in building all of that. And what I'm trying to say is that let me show you what we destroyed so you understand. A whole village was split into half because of the demolition, because of Hezbollah using civilian population in villages and towns as military bases. Take a look at this one. So, as we all know, and we showed it to you before, this is the area, and that's how close it is to the border with Israel. Majda Zone. Look at the village. Under the center of the village, look, we found drones, parts of drones. They assemble together. See the body and the wings and all of that. Tons of explosive, rockets, launchers, and all of that. Look at that. All of this in well-fortified tunnels under the houses of the village. All of that just to show you that we had to destroy it. And lo and behold, we did destroy it. Take a look at what we did yesterday. We destroyed that big thing. Look at it. It's almost like an earthquake. It was such a blast that they say that there's a crater that was created in the heart of the village. And I don't know if you can see it. Here it is. Look at this. Look at the explosion of that enormous, monstrous tunnel in the heart of that village. Now, you understand, this is just one. There's plenty of them. We're right now sitting further away from there on another huge facility where we know there's dozens of Hezbollah and Iranian officers trapped under the ground. We're right there. We're sitting right there. And it's even bigger than this. We know there's another one that we showed you last time called Imad 4. It's a missile city under the ground. We showed you a few weeks ago in the Beaufort fortress under the ground, another enormous one. Hezbollah prepared for a ground invasion as well as assault from the air and also from the sea, by the way. And all of that investment of the IRGC, few kilometers away from our border. Israel right now is basically cleaning up wherever we are in the yellow area, but we actually need to clean more. And so the Lebanese government realized we have to sign something with the Israelis or else Iran is going to call the shots and there'll never be peace. There'll never be end to this war because they know Israel is very, very, very determined to end Hezbollah. And whoever pays the price for it is not only the residents of northern Israel, which, by the way, are now back to normal, thanks to the presence of the IDF in Lebanon, But it's the South Lebanon villagers. We're talking about 200,000 people that will not be allowed to come back. In many of those villages, there's nothing to come back to. But even those houses are still standing in area where we are. They will never be able to recover. And the point is this: if Lebanon as a country ever wants peace along its southern part of this country, and no Israeli attacks in Beirut or in eastern part in the Bekaa Valley, they know that Hezbollah has to be destroyed. Now, they also know that they are too weak to destroy Hezbollah. That's why they said, we prefer the Israeli military inside, ensuring that Hezbollah is destroyed, than to force Israel out first and think that we could do it. Look, they tried to do it. We already got in and got out under Biden in 2004, if you remember, and 24, if you remember. And we just stayed in 5 different key points, but that's it. We pulled out. We were there already, and we pulled out. And Hezbollah immediately recovered, because whenever you're out, they are in. So my point is this: the Lebanese government decided, okay, I guess there's no other choice here but to sign with Israel something. And for the first time in the history, the Lebanese sovereign government is actually signing a paper that is saying that IDF, Israeli troops, can remain in southern Lebanon as long as there are any armed militias apart from the Lebanese armed forces, which is way beyond Hezbollah. It's Islamic Jihad, is Hamas, if they have representation there, any other Palestinian faction, any person that holds weapon and threatens Israel that is not Lebanese military, is a good enough justification for Israel to stay there. And everybody understands that. And so the Lebanese government signed that. And that is a huge blow to Iran. And that's why Iran is now humiliating the United States president. They are not showing up to the talks in Switzerland. So the president just tweeted yesterday, Iran requested that we should meet in Doha, Qatar. No, Iran did not request that. You wanted that. The Iranians said, we're not going to meet with the Americans at all. And why? Because America is not, look how stupid that MOU was. Iran is now saying, one of the key things on the MOU that Israel has to pull out of Lebanon is not being implemented. Therefore, we're not even moving forward. So you understand that by allowing the Lebanese portfolio to be even an issue in the Memorandum of Understanding, America basically gave the power to any Hezbollah terrorist to close the Strait of Hormuz. Because anything that will be done to Israel that will cause Israeli retaliation can actually cause an Iranian reaction now that will close the Strait of Hormuz. And the Strait of Hormuz is now the biggest weapon in the hands of the Iranians, bigger than any nuclear weapon. Okay? And so this is the difference between the MOU, 14 points in the stupid MOU, and 14 points in the agreement between Israel and Lebanon, brokered by the United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio. And if you read carefully and I have all of them, but I already posted them on Telegram, and you can find them. Basically, Israel will never pull out of southern Lebanon, because it's the way the 14 points are detailed are that we cannot move forward with any pulling out before Hezbollah is dismantled and before any others are dismantled. So as long as the Hezbollah is not disarming, Israel is still there. It's exactly what we're doing in Gaza. In Gaza, and you can clearly see the map in Gaza, so you understand. This is the map in Gaza. And in Gaza, look at what we found, by the way. We just destroyed 16 kilometers, 10 miles long system of tunnels on the Egyptian border. these are psychopaths. You have to understand, psychopaths. They use billions to build, and all of that is under mosques and schools, UNRWA clinics, and hospitals, all of those tunnels. And we are talking about tunnels with tons of rooms and control rooms and quarters, residential quarters for the terrorists to stay there for the longest time. And the way Israel had to deal with it, by the way, this is where a body of an Israeli soldier was kept for 10 years, in that tunnel. Now, the thing is this. Look at this, all of that. The thing is this, Israel, in order to dismantle this tunnel, had to pour 30,000 cubic meters of concrete. They show that Gaza children are swimming in concrete. Of course, when you put concrete in tunnels, and that's the concrete that we poured in, you can see, we poured, look at this. They'll never be able to restore this tunnel right now. But when you have to pour so much concrete, it comes out from every shaft that exists in houses in the surrounding area, and then it goes out to the street. By the way, that's a way to know where the shafts are. Okay, so basically, all I'm trying to say here is that the same goes with Gaza and Lebanon when it comes to Israel will stay until those terrorist organizations are dismantled. Now, the whole board of peace in Gaza was supposed to bring about the dismantling of Hamas, and Hamas wouldn't dismantle. Hamas says, no, we're not going to give up our weapon. So Israel every day, every single day, is making the territory that is left in the hands of Hamas smaller and smaller. And every day, we're killing more and more participants of the massacre, and more infrastructures are being destroyed under the ground and above the ground, and terrorists that are working to restore Hamas capabilities. Now, it's very interesting because in order to kick terrorists on our border, we took over parts of Mount Hermon and in the Golan Heights area in Syria, took parts of southern Lebanon. We took obviously almost 70% of Gaza. So Turkey is now saying the Zionist expansion is actually threatening us, Turkey. Erdogan, his economy is really on the verge of collapse. He's expecting the U.S. president soon, who I'm not sure what's going on with the president of the United States and Erdogan, but there's something so unhealthy in the way Trump is viewing Erdogan, Qatari Amir, the Pakistanis, the Syrian president, and the Saudis. He is viewing these bloodthirsty dictators as, I don't know, as the best people ever. Now, the president said something very interesting in a press conference in the Oval Office when he was asked by a Turkish journalist about his upcoming visit to Turkey. Take a look at what the president of the United States said.
As a Turk myself, I can tell you with great confidence that your presence in Ankara is eagerly anticipated. What's your message to your great friend Erdogan and the Turkish people? Because you're going to be there in less than 2 weeks.
From Turkey?
Yeah, I'm a Turk myself.
Well,
And
I like him. He's a friend of mine, and he stayed out of the war. You know, he was a prime candidate to go into the war with Iran, maybe on the Iran side, because he's not a big fan of Israel, as you know. And I asked him to stay out. He stayed out. And you know who else was great? Was President Xi of China.
Yeah. Trump just said that Erdogan was about to join the war on the side of Iran because he hates Israel. Not to mention that America went out to a war against Iran. Erdogan was about to attack Israel, join the war. That means he won't attack America, he would attack Israel. And Trump said, stay out. Now, I don't know if you understand that. Trump just announced that he's going to sell Erdogan F-35s and engines for the Turkish fighter jets. I don't know if you get it. But President Trump just, I don't think he realized that he said that. He basically said that the hatred of Erdogan to Israel nearly caused Erdogan to join the war on the side of Iran. And he told him not to. Another thing you need to know, and it's now out in the open because the Israeli Minister of Defense said that, Israeli general said that, and Emirati officials confirmed that. And it's that Israel had already a plan, the Israeli Mossad had a plan to topple the Iranian regime. And the plan was to arm the Kurds and other minorities. And when the time comes, they'll storm into Iran and give lots of weapons to the civilians. And this way, the civilians will be armed and waiting for the right moment to go out and finish the job. And guess what? And I'm not the one who says that. I'm quoting now an Israeli general, a very thick hint from the Israeli Minister of Defense, an Emirati official that said that out in the open. That Vice President Vance leaked that information to Erdogan. When Erdogan heard that the Kurds, the ones he hates the most, are going to be armed by Trump, he immediately called Trump, and Trump told him, I'm going to hold it, that you're not going to join the war as well. And that probably was the deal that Trump was just talking about. Guys, there was a plan to topple the regime. Erdogan foiled it by using Vance, or Vance foiled it by using Erdogan, basically. And the rest is history. America is now negotiating with terrorists with a regime that can only be likened to the Nazis, nothing less than that. And so it's amazing. Now, Erdogan just said something very amazing. Now, listen to the rhetorics, because then I'll tell you that Israel is now fully ready for a war that might come from Turkey. It's something that who would think about that in the past? But look at what Erdogan said a couple of days ago. He said that Zionism has set its sights on all of Turkey. He's spreading blood libels as if Israel wants to, expand and even reach Turkey. And we are fighting against it for the survival of our state. He's basically preparing the ground to what he would do as a preemptive strike, or a strike to stop the Zionists from ever existing, so they will not threaten us. Now, there is not even a border between Israel and Turkey. There is no border between Israel and Turkey. We're not a threat to Turkey, but Turkey views us as a threat because Turkey doesn't want Israel to win over its enemies. It's the Muslim Brotherhood agenda, never to let the Jews win, and always to keep the Jews busy with some fights, whether it's Hamas, whether it's Hezbollah, whether it's Al-Qaeda from Syria, whether it's Iran. As long as we're exhausted, and as long as we're not becoming, superpower in our region, and ever since Israel is on the winning side, and ever since we are also an energy and a technology superpower, in innovation in AI, innovation in cybersecurity, innovation in weapons, innovation in water, innovation in agriculture, all of that, Erdogan is so filled with envy and hatred. And I cannot understand how a US president does not see that when he himself says in front of the whole world that Erdogan nearly joined the war on the side of Iran because he hates Israel so much. I don't understand that. I don't get it. And so Netanyahu, a couple days ago, said, we take his calls, Erdogan's calls for the annihilation of the state of Israel very seriously. We will draw the attention of the US to this. The full quote from this cabinet meeting is, hardly a day goes by without Erdogan calling for the annihilation of the state of Israel. We take these words very seriously, because if we have learned one thing from the history of our people, it is that when someone says he intends to annihilate us, take him seriously. We take these statements seriously, and we will also draw the attention of our American friends to these remarks. We do not ignore them. And one of the things that Israel did in the last couple days, Israel recognized the genocide, the Holocaust of the Armenians done by the Turks. And Foreign Minister Saar said, I thank Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu for his support and the government ministers for their unanimous approval of the resolution I initiated for Israel's recognition of the Armenian genocide. Thus, Israel joins 32 countries that have fulfilled a moral duty by recognizing the historical truth and rejecting attempts to deny it. The same guy that calls us Nazis and says that we commit genocide is the one who killed over 1 million people from the Armenian ethnic group. So, look, another thing that comes out as of late is that I think it's the University of Pennsylvania, some statistic person who works with statistics. Okay, I'll have to find the word for that. And he basically looked at the numbers of casualties from Gaza. And all those numbers that everybody's parroting are given by the Ministry of Health, owned by Hamas. And he realized that nothing makes sense. Nothing makes sense. All the people that Hamas is reporting is always, including women and children, as if the war is still going on, as if they're still part of that equation, when we know that in all of those cases it was military people, it was military age males. And we also received information that Hamas informed the authorities to report every death as a casualty of war, not anything else. So all the old people in Gaza, all the people with some diseases, and all of them died from the war, basically. So the numbers in Gaza that were actually war casualties, that are what I call collateral damage, not combatants, I'm talking about non-combatants, is actually the lowest in any battle in urban area in history, in modern history warfare. Unbelievable. And also now everybody can see that all the photos of starvation were actually genetic diseases of children. And miraculously, the fact that that child suffers from a genetic disease was not mentioned. And his healthy brother stands right next to him, and he's not, he's not thin and looks like a skeleton. All of that was fabricated. There's no genocide and there's no starvation. But the thing is this, the truth comes out, but yet there are world leaders that they have an agenda, regardless of what the real deal is. And Erdogan is one of them. His agenda is that Israel will not exist. And we know that in the Bible, because the next war is a war where the IRGC and Erdogan will join Russia together with Libya and Sudan to come against Israel in order to annihilate Israel. Everyone with his own thing, his own reason. Who would imagine, and we will actually hear from a Turkish president words talking about the annihilation of the state of Israel? Well, the Bible talked about that. The Bible talked about the fact that they will come. Why will they come against us? We have no business with the Turks, but the Turks have business with us. Our success, our strength, our security is a problem for their ideology. Muslim Brotherhood hold the ideology that they are superior and they must control any part of the world that used to once be be controlled by Muslims. That's why Erdogan says we need to liberate Jerusalem. What does it mean, liberate? Is literally going in and with ground troops and invade, liberate Jerusalem from who? Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. What would you liberate Jerusalem from? From us. Destroy us, kill us. So we're watching something very interesting going on. We're watching, by the way, Vice President Vance is making a fool of himself all across the media, by the way, because there's not a single day where the Iranians are not humiliating the Americans. Not a single day. In every way possible, they are destroying the deterrence of the American forces and the American administration. And it's sad and painful to see that, especially in light of the amazing military victory that America achieved. And yet the Iranians are actually the ones that are calling the shots. Few times in the last week, Iran attacked boats, ships in the Straits of Hormuz. Few times. America responded in a very limited way, in that none of that really I would say impressed the Iranians. You don't understand. Trump may want to reach the midterm with low oil prices and all of that, but the Iranians are not going to let the one who is responsible of killing their supreme leader, they're not going to allow him to win the midterms, or at least his people to win them. They'll do whatever they can to humiliate the administration and lower the chances for that ruling party right now to win in the midterms. And while they do that, Qatar is funding all the people that are now running, and we see a psyop, basically, an operation. The Democratic Party is becoming a shell for the Islamists and the socialists, and they're destroying America from within. And they're going to be the ones that will be elected into the U.S. Congress in a few months. The United States Congress, after the midterms, will be the most non-patriotic, un-American one. Unbelievable. And it breaks my heart, by the way, because I am an Israeli patriot, but I love America. I mean, America for me had values that we share that are far above and beyond just interests, okay? And I'm not sure what has bewitched the current administration. I mean, I have my theories, but all I know is that's not how Trump is going to win the midterms if he continue to let them make fool of himself. So, do I think that the MOU will eventually give birth to a nuclear deal? No. But I know one thing. Every billion that is going to be released will go to Hezbollah. Every billion that is going to come into the economy of Iran, because now they can export their oil, is going to not restore the welfare of the people of Iran, but the IRGC. That suicidal cult that is still ruling because somebody decided that it's a good thing to let them stay in power. So I just explained to you the difference between the MOU and the Israeli-Lebanese agreement. MOU is giving Iran the power. The agreement between Lebanon and Israel actually gives Israel and Lebanon the power to kick Iran, to leave Iran out, to keep the IDF in Lebanon indefinitely until Hezbollah is dismantled. Now, America is the one that put the parties together in Washington. America is signed on it. So America cannot demand Israeli withdrawal of troops from Lebanon, would America actually sign a deal that keeps us inside? So now you have to explain that to the Iranians, that the IDF is not going to pull out of southern Lebanon. The Iranians are going to say, yeah, in that case, we're not moving ahead. We're not moving ahead. We're going to give you problems with the Strait of Hormuz, which is their power. The Iranians already said the Strait of Hormuz is not going to be the same. Now, can you imagine a country that decides that an international waterway is now subjected to its control? Can you imagine the Strait of Gibraltar is now seized by Morocco and they say nobody goes through between the Mediterranean and the Atlantic Ocean? Can you imagine the Bab el-Mandab? The Houthis says nobody passes through unless you pay us. Any strait of any waterways around the world will now be controlled by terrorists, and they know it pays off. America cannot agree to that, and the Iranians are already said that's what's going to happen. So, and the MOU is a stupid agreement crafted by stupid people with a stupid outcome, whereas the agreement with the Lebanese government is smart one done by two elected governments that respect each other in a sense, and that understand also that Israel is not the problem, but Hezbollah is the problem, and Iran, the sponsor of Hezbollah, is the problem. That's it. You need to call it by name. You need to always understand that if you try to hide things, try to appease your enemy, it will always come back and bite you. Don't ever do that. So this is where we are now. A step closer to the Ezekiel war. Iran is emboldened and strong. Turkey is positioning itself as next to come against us. American administration that is destroying itself, which is so sad to see. And Israel is drawing the line and says, that's our red line. And by the way, Israel said yesterday, if Iran is going to attack us, we will not even ask America. We're not going to ask anyone. We will forcefully strike back, even if we had to do it alone. And we will have to do it alone. We're already working on all of our defense systems because we know that it's going to come, and maybe even America will not help us in intercepting any of the Iranian missiles. We know it's going to come. We understand we're going to have to stand alone here. And we understand that America wants business as usual, where you cannot have business as usual with a terrorist organization like the IRGC. So this is the update. I gave you a lot of information. Please, if you can, share it. And of course, I want to remind you this one, of course. This is my next book, guys, more relevant than ever before. If you can, scan the QR code, pre-order it, help us get it to the big stores, and help non-believers get access to biblical truths that will open their eyes to understand what's going on even today. All right, so my next thing is speaking alongside with other pastors and speakers in our Alaska cruise. From there, we have a conference in Spokane in Washington. We also have a conference in Dubai, and we have conferences across New Zealand and Australia. All of that is on our website, beholdisrael.org, which is, by the way, the place where you can support this ministry. Don't be tempted by any messages online from some imposters. Beholdisrael.org is the only way to give, support, and help us do what we do. We have more than one way to give. And so if you feel like led to do that, please do that. Thank you again. Share this video with as many as you can. God bless you, and shalom.